Welcome to Too Easy to Learn. Learn with Mr. Big. The topic is Surds. Rationalize denominator. By the end of this lesson, students will be able to rationalize denominator. Rationalize denominator by using difference of square algebraic identities. Rationalize denominator by using perfect square a plus b whole square algebraic identity, a minus b whole square algebraic identity. Let's start our lesson. Rationalize the denominator for each of the following. What does it mean to rationalize the denominator? We have three parts, part A, B and C. If you look at the part A, so it's a fraction 1 over square root of 5. Numerator is 1 and denominator is square root of 5, which is a surd. In the part B, the denominator is also a surd, square root of 3 is a surd. And in part C, there is also a square root of 7, which is a surd. So rationalized denominator mean that we have to remove surds from the denominator. We have to remove this square root of 5 from denominator. We have to remove square root of 3 from this denominator. And we have to remove square root of 7 from this fraction. So let's start how to remove this. 1 over square root of 5. What is the step to remove this square root of 5 from denominator? We will multiply square root of 5 and we will divide by square root of 5. Whatever written in the denominator, whatever the surd in the denominator, you will use the same surd in numerator and denominator. You will multiply the same surd and you will divide by the same surd. So 1 times square root of 5 is square root of 5. And 5 times square root of 5 we can write under a same square root. So 5 times 5 is 25. So square root of 25 is 5. So final answer is square root of 5 over 5. And you see that in the denominator there is 5 and 5 is an integer. It is not surd. So this expression 1 over under root of 5 has been rationalized. Part B. Look at the denominator. In the denominator, it's a surd, square root of 3. So what is the step? We use the same surd. We will multiply the same surd under root of 3 and we will divide the same surd. We will use in the denominator the same surd. So 2 multiplied by square root of 3 and square root of 3 multiplied by square root of 3, we will get under the same root. So 3 times 3 is 9. So 2 times square root of 3 over square root of 9. Square root of 9 is 3. 9 is a perfect square number and its answer is 3 and 3 is an integer. If you look at this answer, there is no surd in the denominator. So this fraction has been rationalized by removing this surd, which is square root of 3. Let's solve part C. In the numerator, there is a surd square root of 2. In the denominator, there is a surd which is square root of 7. But we have to remove the square surd from the denominator. What is the method? We'll use the same surd. We will multiply square root of 7 and we will also divide by square root of 7. So these numerator will be multiplied together and the denominator will also multiply together. So square root of 2 times square root of 7 and square root of 7 times square root of 7, which we can write under the same root. So 7 times 7 is 49. We can also write 2 and 7 under the same root. So 49 is a perfect square number and square root of 49 is 7, which is an integer. So if you look at this denominator, there is no surd in the denominator. It means that it has been rationalized. So these parts are very basic part, but we will use these concepts in upcoming questions. Question number 2, rationalize the denominator. Now in this question, numerator is 6 and denominator is 3 minus square root of 2. So there is a surd square root of 2 in the denominator and we have to remove it to rationalize the denominator. So what is the method? We will use a new term which is called conjugate. What is meant by the conjugate? The conjugate is an expression where the middle sign is reversed. For example, in this expression, 3 minus square root of 2. So conjugate is 3 plus square root of 2. So we will reverse this middle sign. If it is negative, we will change into the positive, and if it is positive, we change into the negative. So we will multiply by the conjugate 3 plus square root of 2, and we will also divide by conjugate, which is 3 plus square root of 2. So you must understand what is meant by conjugate. Conjugate is the same denominator but with different middle sign. Now 6 times 3 plus square root of 2, we will write in bracket. So denominator will also multiply 3 minus square root of 2 times 3 plus square root of 2. In the denominator, we can use this algebraic identity, which is called difference of square. So a plus b, a minus b is equal to a square minus b square. So here a is 3 and b is square root of 2. So 3, there is also 3, square root of 2, there is also square root of 2, plus and minus. One sign is positive, other sign is negative. So it should be equal to a square minus b square. So we can say it is a square of 3 minus square of square root of 2. Now simplify this fraction. 6 times 3 is 18 and 6 times square root of 2 is also written here. Square of 3 is 9 and this square will cancel the square root and we will get 2. So 9 minus 2. So final answer is 18 plus 6 times square root of 2 and 9 minus 2 is 7. So this is our final answer. And if you observe this, there is no surd in denominator. It's mean this fraction has been rationalized. This fraction, the denominator of this fraction has been rationalized. Question number 3. Rationalize the denominator. 8 divided by square root of 3 plus square root of 2. So there are two surds in the denominator. We have to remove it to rationalize the denominator. So what is the method? The method is we will use conjugate. What is the conjugate of this denominator? There is a plus sign. We will use the same denominator but with opposite sign. If there is a plus sign, we will use the minus sign. So square root of 3 minus square root of 2 divided by square root of 3 minus square root of 2. So there is a plus, so there should be negative, and it is called conjugate. We will multiply by the conjugate and we will also divide by the conjugate. Now numerator will be multiplied by numerator denominator will be multiplied by denominator. Here 8 times square root of 3 minus square root of 2, and square root of 3 plus square root of 2 times square root of 3 minus square root of 2. Here we'll apply again the difference of square algebraic identities. A plus b, a minus b is equal to a square minus b square. So we will expand the numerator. 8 times square root of 3 minus 8 times square root of 2. And we will apply difference of square algebraic identity here. A square minus b square. Value of a is square root of 3. So we can write square of square root of 3 minus value of b is square root of 2, and we can write it here square of square root of 2. So this square will cancel the square root and we will get 3, and this square will also cancel this square root and we will get 2. So 3 minus 2. We cannot add these, subtract these surd because these surds are not same. So they will remain the same. So 3 minus 1 is 3 minus 2 is 1, and final answer is 8 times square root of 3 minus 8 times square root of 2. So there is no surd in denominator. It's mean this fraction, the denominator of this fraction has been rationalized. Question number 4. Rationalize the denominator. Now, if you look at this question, there is surd in numerator square root of 11 and square root of 3. And there are surd in denominator as well, square root of 11 plus square root of 3. But we have to remove surds from the denominator. So that's why we call it, it will be rationalized. What is the method? We will multiply by the conjugate and we will divide it by the conjugate. So what is the conjugate? In denominator is there is a plus sign. We use same the denominator but with opposite sign. So here is a plus sign. We'll use here the negative sign. So there is also a negative sign. So these are called conjugate of denominator. Now numerator will be multiplied by numerator and denominator will be multiplied by denominator. So look at this. Now you see in numerator the both terms are same, but in denominator there is a plus sign and there is a negative sign. In numerator there is a negative sign and there is a negative sign and both terms are same. So in denominator we can apply difference of square algebraic identity, and we can write this numerator square root of 11 minus square root of 2 whole square. So when these two brackets are multiplied, the power of these two brackets will be added and it will become square root of 11 minus square root of 3 whole square. In numerator we will, in denominator we will use this algebraic identity, but in numerator we will use this perfect square algebraic identity. And what is that? A minus b whole square is equal to a square minus 2ab plus b square. So if you look at this denominator, we have applied a square minus b square. So square root of 11 minus square root of 3. Now expand numerator. In numerator, a is square root of 11 and b is square root of 3. So a square minus 2ab plus b square. The square root of 11 minus 2 times square root of 11 times square root of 3 plus square root of square root of 3. Now simplify numerator. This square will cancel the square root. We will get 11. So 2 times these two 11 and 3 will multiply. We can write under the same root and they both will multiply. This square will cancel the square root and we will get 3. 11 minus 3 is equal to 8. we add 11 and 3 and it will become 14. So 14 minus 2 times 11 times 3 is 33. So 14 minus 2 times square root of 33. Now if you look at numerator, we can get 2 as a common. Take 2 as a common. What we left inside the bracket? 7 minus square root of 33. This 2 will cancel this 8 and in denominator we left with 4. So final answer is 7 minus square root of 33 divided by 4. There is no surd in denominator. It's mean that this fraction has been rationalized, mean the denominator of this fraction has been rationalized. Thanks for this lesson. See you in next lesson.